What's happening? Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome back to my channel. It's a bit glitchy at the moment, but we'll try and get through this. I am introducing Matthew Purkiss to you all. Hello, Matthew. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm okay, thank you. Yourself?
Oh, great. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic to have you on board. So Matthew is an author, and I thought we'd bring him on and talk about his books, his projects in the works, and what's coming up in the future. So yeah, I'm glad to have you here with us. It's been a while. We were trying to get Matthew on here a few weeks ago, but I don't know, I got wrapped up in other stuff. So I'm glad you're here, and you're coming all the way from the UK. Yes, the wonderful UK. That's great. I've got some great friends over there. Yeah, it's a lovely place. I haven't been there personally, but I will one day. Yeah. So Matthew's got some. So first of all, why do you write horror? That's the main question, I guess.
Yeah. Ever since a young age, I've sort of had like a connection with horror. Not through sort of books to start with, because I did struggle to read and write at school. So my sort of first connections with horror came through film. And the first horror film I think I accidentally stumbled across was The Exorcist, which scarred me for life. So, but my first sort of reading experiences with horror, it was sort of like the Goosebump books, growing up through college. Then it went on to obviously like adult books. But yeah, I remember just sort of having this connection with the expression of horror through film, and also like computer games, like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, music. I grew up listening to a lot of heavy metal bands, Marilyn Manson, Slipknot. So it was all sort of there from a young age. And then when books came in, it added this extra layer of horror, and different ways to sort of tell unusual stories. So the first horror book I read front to back adult was The Shining by Stephen King.
Wow, impressive. You got through it from start to finish. I couldn't read it.
I did reread it years later when I sort of had a bit more of an understanding, but I still loved it then. So
yeah. So he's one of your inspirations, perhaps, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's fair to say that he has been a big part of my life, really. My reading life as well as film.
Yep.
You know, The Shining was the first one, but since then I've read, countless others by him. Yeah, I do like his work.
I don't quite like his writing, but I do like the adaptations of his work. Yeah, I'm a hardcore Dean Koontz fan. Yeah, I think you like one or the other. You know what I mean? But do you write in other genres as well, like sci-fi or fantasy or?
So the first trilogy of books I released are more lean towards sci-fi mystery than horror. They do have a horror elements in it. Don't know, when I first sort of started out, I found it really hard to write horror. So I sort of leaned more to sci-fi, and I found that was much easier. And then I thought, no, I need to write horror. There's like, it's within me to write horror. I need to write it. So
what did you find hard about writing horror? Because I know that lots of people think it's a really easy genre to write.
Yeah, no, I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I always had the intentions of writing horror straight from the get-go, but every time I sort of started, it just wasn't happening. And like, it was always something like I'd seen a film and like I was writing it, but it was like a film that I've already seen or something. I found it really hard to get into the mindset of it. but luckily I've hope I found a route in now. So.
Well, you have. I read one of your wonderful stories, and oh my goodness, you are amazing. I mean, that was second person too, wasn't it? I mean, wow, to pull off a second person point of view for a short story. I mean, and it wasn't a short story; it was quite a long short story, wasn't it? So, I mean, bloody amazing. Yeah. That's why I wanted you on my channel, because of that story, and the way you write is just fabulous. And one day I'm going to get hold of all your books and I'm going to have them. So so far you've published Entity, is that correct? A trilogy?
Yeah, so I've released Entity trilogy. I released them 10 years ago this year, actually.
Wow.
As 3 separate books, and then it was until last year that I really thought about stepping up my writing journey. So I sort of combined the 3 into one book, and then it wasn't until October that my sort of newest material came out in Spirals of Grey, which is psychological horror. So.
Wow. And they're all on Amazon or Goodreads or?
Yep. So it's available in paperback on Amazon. It's also on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited.
Excellent. And you're finding your so you've got Entity. Do you have any other books or anthologies you've been a part of or anything? Or
I have submitted some short stories to various ones. Obviously, you know about the one.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on a short story collection.
Excellent.
It's actually turning out to be bigger than I thought, to be honest, because I thought it was just going to be, short stories, lovely. I've actually got some people collaborating with me, and I had confirmation today, actually, that this will be happening. So,
wow.
So what started out as like a little, quiet 4 short story collection is turning into a much bigger machine, which I absolutely love, and that it's really sort of I think it's going to be amazing.
Wow! So that's an anthology of other people's work as well, is that right?
No, that's just my ones.
Just your ones?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got 4 stories that I wrote in that one. So.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. So, have you, I don't know, I like to ask people this: how do you manage rejection? Like, I've sent stories to magazines, loads of random places like that, and they just have not been accepted. Magazines, for some reason, are a bit funny with horror, I think. I'm not too sure why they do it, but they ask for horror and then you give them horror, they don't want it. So it's like, oh, okay. So how do you handle rejection? Because that's a really hard one to try and grasp when you're a writer and someone's rejecting your work.
Yeah.
I manage it because I've got a thick skin now, but how do you manage it? Like, do you go off and cry, or do you have self-doubt, or all those nasty negative things coming into your mind?
Yeah, I think I deal with it as it is, sort of thing. I do suffer with anxiety and depression on a daily basis anyway. But the rejections I get from magazines or anthology books or websites, it's sort of like, I don't take it too personally, because it's not a reflection of my work, as long as I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
When it comes to my writing, I'm very sort of aware of sort of where I fit. And I'm sure as well as I do, that horror is sort of like a bit of an unusual genre to write in.
It is.
And it's not widely accepted, even though they like to be open-minded, maybe not so much.
Yes, the horror genre is gone a bit wonky at the moment, hasn't it? I don't know. There's a lot of people coming in and trying to tell us how to write, and don't write this and don't write that and don't use this word and don't use that word, and it's just it can be really disheartening. I've found, especially in my writing journey when I first started. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just wanted to write horror. So, and it's kind of like having people coming in and going, "Oh, you can't say that word. That's, that's racist." And I'm like, many moons ago, is that racist? Oh God, that's just something I used as a to say the passage of time. And then I had people coming on going, you nicked a Native American, Indian American terminology. And I'm like, but it's there. It's in the ether, we can use it, can't we? You don't have a trademark on it, do you? So I remember having a real big fight with somebody in one of my writing groups about it. Because I wrote a story, that's how I started many moons ago. And then they were all like, at me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Do you come across that sort of stuff? People like trolling you and going, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. Or I don't know. I like to hear of other people's experiences when it comes to people trying to jump on and dilute your work is another thing. I wonder if you're caught up in that over in the UK, or do you just write what the hell you want?
I'm quite lucky because all the sort of rejections and that have been quite civil. I don't know. I feel like for me and what I want to sort of tell my readers really and viewers, as long as you're happy with it, it doesn't matter what other people say. Like, you need to make sure that you're 100% hand on heart, done the best that you can. And if someone, you're not going to please everyone, there's always going to be someone that doesn't like it. Yeah. So I think the sooner you can come to terms with the fact that someone out there was going to hate it, I think you'll be fine.
I like the way you think. That's a really, that's a really important thing to take into consideration as well. Is, some people write for an audience, a specific audience. Some people, like me, don't actually give a shit anymore, and I just write whatever I want to write. Because I've actually been, I've been asking people as well about token characters and whether or not they fit those into their books for the audience. But have you had to do? You haven't had to come across any of that yet, have you? Or have you?
No. Not so much, really. When I write something that I would want to read, so I don't really think about potentially who's going to be picking up my book.
Okay.
At times with some of my characters, I sort of don't go into so much detail on their appearance because I want the reader to put themselves in the shoes, no matter what background they're from. So I try to be a bit vague with that.
Oh, okay. And that's just for short stories, obviously. Yeah. Or are you doing that with your novels?
More for the short stories. There are some characters in my novels, but I think it's and short stories are harder than novels, I find.
They are. When I first started writing, I was like, no, I'm not writing short stories. I've got no bloody idea what to do. So I ended up going to doing a level 5 and level 7 creative writing course. And I learned how to write short stories. And now I'm just like, oh my God, they're just amazing, And I've given writing tips on how to write short stories because there's quite a lot of people who don't know how to write short stories, but they know how to write novels. But I like... when I started off writing, I was doing, I don't know if you've heard of Readsea. Readsea. So that's a place that you can go and get all your work published as in a competition. So if your work's good enough, they will actually publish it on their website as well. So I started doing that, and I did that for about a year. And so I had 40 short stories published in that first year. And then I went on to do anthologies. Now, some people don't. Some people stick with one novel for their whole life, working on one novel. You're not like that, obviously, because I can see you've got drive and motivation, and you really did put yourself out there. And I'm rapt when I can find an author who wants to share their work. And basically, you're a member of my Horror Central group and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, you approached me and like you reached out. And if you didn't reach out, I'm wondering, where would you have gone? Would you have kept going around in circles trying to get, I guess what I'm saying is I'm really grateful that you reached out, because there are so many people out there that don't, and it only takes one person to help push you in and push you further, give you a little bit of motivation, putting you on podcasts, and that as a way of introducing you as an author, so that people can go, wow, this guy's really cool. He's written some books. Let's go have a look, and you're continuing to work as well, as in on your work, on your writing, which is really good. Are you finding it a bit of a pressure? I mean, because you work full time as well, basically, as well as writing. How do you find a balance?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It is difficult. But I think my determination and my own motivation to write these books and share the stories with the world, it's like sort of, it just drives me. But along with my books, I just want to try and encourage other people, just to follow their dreams and what they want to do. Because growing up, I wish I could read a book and, or watch someone to give me the courage to sort of get over my anxiety, my fears, and, and hopefully, one day someone might stumble across this video and, might have the courage to sort of pursue their own paths.
Yes. That's really important, actually. I'm glad you said that, because not that you go out trying to inspire people, but it's just, if people can see the journey you're on and that you're a worker, you try hard, you work hard, you're committed, you're dedicated to your work, I think people then they really do come on board, as in supporting, sharing your work, and all that sort of stuff. Balance is hard, isn't it? It's, you want to spend time on your work and all that sort of stuff, but if you're coming home from work, obviously the last thing you want to do is sit down and write. Some people do, and I don't know how they do that, but they do, because this isn't your full-time job, writing. It's basically, so like me, I've got to balance my family as well as work and all this other stuff I'm doing as well. So now you mentioned mental illness. So I've got mental illnesses as well. And I've found a lot of actual horror writers do have maybe depression, anxiety, particular. Do you find writing horror cathartic? Because I do.
It's definitely provided an outlet. Especially when I was writing Spirals of Grey, I was in quite a dark place myself then. And so a lot of my thoughts and everything sort of transferred onto the page. And I do have an upcoming work that I sort of wrote down really quick, just as a way of getting everything out of my head. But when I reread it, I thought it was like some of my best work. So I've like pursued it and I've extended it now. So, but that's way in the future.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I think
it's definitely a good tool to have if you're able.
Yeah.
And I think, especially with horror, because I think is such an expressive genre, and there's like no limits to it. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Do you find you have to apologize to people, or do you feel a little bit weird when you have to when you tell people what you do? Have you come across that?
No, I don't think so. I think
that's good.
I don't apologize for what I do. I do it because I like doing it. And why should we apologize for being ourselves? That's the way I sort of see it. That's like how my mindset is like at this moment in time. I'm just why am I
your
apologizing?
Voice, hey, when you just said that, your voice went all demonic because it glitched and it sounded really demonic. It's going to be brilliant on the.
I'm like channeling something here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Oh no, I just like to ask that because I don't know. I've had to apologize so many times, and I've stopped doing it now. But I just know I'm in the past of, my kids, friends, parents, and that. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a writer. Oh yeah, what do you do? What do you write? Horror. Oh, okay. Should I let my daughter play with your daughter or not? It's like, oh my God, you're crazy. I think they're only joking, but I don't know. It's just sometimes it's a hard one, especially being a female. It's just like females don't write horror. It's one a bit, I don't know. It's just I actually get really quite pissed off when I hear that people are doing that to other writers, oh, well, why are you writing horror? That sort of thing. It's it's not a good space. So I've found that the horror community, especially the independent film and book community, are just amazing people. Do you have a network like of ARC readers or beta readers that help you on your journey with your writing?
Yeah, so when I sort of complete a project, I then send it out to people just to sort of have a little read and see what they think, any feedbacks, all that sort of thing. They send it back. But in terms of the bigger sort of support, I do go to networking events just to sort of gauge people's reactions when I do tell them that I write horror. So I was at a creative event last week, and they're, what do you do? And I'm like, a writer. I write horror, and it's like instantly you can see whether it's going to be a good conversation or not.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, but I suppose I'm quite fortunate. The people that are sort of supporting me, like, support the genre that I do as well.
Wow.
I do have a couple of friends who don't like horror at all, but still they're supporting me because they're part of my support. So
oh, that's so good to hear. Yeah, because sometimes authors can be quite, do you find it quite isolating sometimes?
I think I do, because I don't know any other sort of authors in my close network, and I don't come from a family that read, so it's very sort of like I've always been on the sideline, like doing my own thing over there, and it's just like, oh, I'm just going to do this now, and they're like, oh, okay, what does that mean? Even people that don't understand why or what or how, they do support me. So I'm quite fortunate. I am fortunate.
That's really good, because I know a few writers that are not being supported by their family, and I've heard that that's actually quite a stressful thing for them. It ends up becoming quite stressful, especially if your family aren't on board with it, Yeah, whereas if we were writing comedy or something, we'd get, oh, good on you, you're doing really well, congratulations. But when you get your horror book or a story in an anthology, they're like, oh, okay, because they can't read it, right? They don't want to read it because they're not into horror, so they don't have any idea what you're doing, except for when you say, on Facebook, oh, I had another book published or whatever. I think networking and family support or friends support is really important, especially I'd say for a horror writer, because we're actually putting, I'm sure you do, and a book I've read your story that you're submitting. We really put our hearts and souls into it, don't we? Because I see you have put your heart and soul into that story, and I've only read one story. That's that says a lot from the outset straight away. It could have been a normal story, but it was an absolutely upside down, wonderful, blimmin' amazing story, something I haven't read before. And I love that. I love it when people come up with new concepts and all that sort of stuff, and they change up the point of view. And I try to keep as safe in my point of view as possible. And you ran with something that is uncommon. It's quite a hard thing to pull off. Do you do that in your other books, or do you change around point of view? Novels, you can change from third person to first person and all that sort of stuff. When you do you like to change between point of views or stick to one?
No, I do try and change it around. I think it gives the reader a nice little, new perspective on it.
Yes.
So for going back to Entity, I sort of wrote it as like the narrator of the story, but within it there was like diary entries, and further along there was like ship logs for the spaceship. So I put all that in, and then Spirals of Grey, I flicked through because the main character is Adam. I've sort of flipped from his present day to when he was younger, writing in his journal.
Excellent.
So I do try and flip it out. But the story that you read, which obviously no one's read yet,
yep,
but hopefully will, is something completely different that I've never done before, which I thought about doing loads and loads of times. But I think to do what I did in the short story would be very difficult to do in a full-length novel.
Oh, virtually impossible. Yeah.
So I was quite happy the sort of inspiration and opportunity to write that short story came about, because it actually just gave me the go ahead to do it.
Excellent.
People are probably so confused because they don't know, but one day.
That's all right. One day you'll know. And then we'll have Matt back on again, and then we can talk about that story and some other stuff that might be happening in the future. So yeah, excellent. So you, what are you working on presently?
So aside from the short story collection that I'm doing, I am working on, again, a completely different subgenre of horror, slashers. So
have you written a slasher before?
No.
Oh, excellent.
And it's the slasher one, is the one that I wrote when I just threw all my anxiety, depression, frustrations, fantasies at the page and didn't think anything else was going to happen. I reread it, and it is now at the stage where I can think about sending it out to people. So
wow.
Even when I finished reading it, and then I read it again and again and again to edit it, I still loved it, and actually I think I loved it even more the more I read it. So I've never done a slasher.
Wow.
I don't know.
They're fun, aren't they? That's my favorite.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
and it is a lot of fun. I've got a few other things planned, so
Wow. So you reckon you might have your collection out this year?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hoping
Yep. And just
August.
submitting more stories to anthologies. And what's your path like for the next? Have you got a 6-month plan or any goals you want to achieve? Or
Yeah, to what, like for this year, obviously nothing's set in stone. Short story collection, hopefully in the summer, August, I'm hoping. Anthologies, I'm looking into submitting more. I did actually find one who's calling for Christmas horror.
oh yes,
So that sounds like something, because I've always wanted to do a Christmas horror story. So I
okay.
might try to do something there. And then I'm not sure whether the slasher will be out this year or next. I'm not 100% sure. I don't
Wow.
want to sort of rush it. I want to
No, things take time.
Yeah.
Yes, it takes time, doesn't it? Especially quality of work. So when I write a short story, I probably revise it about 10 times. What about you?
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo, so I probably just overwork my stuff. So
yeah, I think my anxiety brain never lets me think it's done, so I'm just like over and over again, and it's just like the one that you read, I sort of edited countless times. Like I can't even, and then even when I was going to send it to you to read, I then read it one more time just to make sure.
Oh.
But yeah, I think by the end of like a full length novel, like Entity and Spirals of Grey, after I've read it sort of like 10, 11, 12 times, I'm thinking you sort of get a bit blind to it. So it's like someone else needs to see this now.
Yes. Yes. Do you find that like you can actually overwork a piece to the point where you don't like it anymore?
Yeah.
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 That's not good, eh? Yeah.
No, I think actually in one of the short stories in my collection coming out, I sort of reworked it, and then it turned out that it turned into a different story altogether, and I was like, no. So I sort of like reverted back. So I sort of cancelled out some of the editing. So because I'm quite sort of when I get my mind set on a story, that's how I want it to be. So I'm not saying that the revised version wasn't good. It was just it wasn't what I wanted. So
yes, I hear you. I know exactly what you mean. You start a story, it goes one way, and then all of a sudden the story wants to go that way, and it's like you try it, and it's like, oh, it doesn't land, it doesn't feel right, and then you just go back to the original.
That's it. So like the central plots of stories, I'm quite rigid with them. Characters, on the other hand, seem to have a mind of their own sometimes.
They do.
And Barbara, one of the characters in Spirals of Grey, was quite stubborn. She didn't want to do what I was telling her to do.
Oh,
and I was like trying to get certain characters in all the stories I've wrote to like do something or say something, and then actually I don't think that fits with their personality. So I'm like, need to rethink that now.
Yes, characters can be a bit of a mission to differentiate them or make them stand out in their own personalities, don't they? Because unfortunately, in some cases, some people end up sounding like themselves. So they're putting themselves into all the characters, and then all the characters end up sounding the same as the actual author. So, I know what you mean. I found that quite hard at the beginning too. I actually ended up putting like descriptions of what these people look like, what jobs they are, how old they are, all that sort of stuff was quite helpful. But you're right. Sometimes a character just takes off in another direction, and it's and people don't understand. And the other thing I found is, I don't know if it happens with you, but when you're deep in writing a story, you can go off and do other things like go and hang out with a family or anything, or go and meet a friend at the cafe or something. But in your mind, your story's still there. There's that character is in my head going, get back to work. I need to do this and this and this. And I'm like looking at my friend, talking to her, but I'm like away. I'm away in my head thinking about what Aiden's gonna do next. Oh, actually, I should have made him do this first, and then I'm just like, no wonder my family can't be bothered talking to me anymore because I'm so distracted. You know what I mean? Do you get that way, where you just have a bloody character there and he or she's just in the back of your mind for days? I don't know. Yeah. It happens.
I'm sort of writing a character at the moment who's a bit like that, and I got to a stage where I've like just sat her down on a chair a minute, just chill out, just chill out. And I'm like, I'm not ready for your next part yet. You just sit there and look pretty for 5 minutes.
You have to, right? Yeah. Because
it's just yeah. But I find dialogue's quite difficult because, like you say, they all start sounding just like me, and it's just like it's not me. Yeah. It's like it's a.
I think dialogue. Yeah, I think dialogue is the hardest, most challenging. I'll say. Yes, most challenging element in a story, especially a short story, because you have to have intention behind every single dialogue, and every word you say has to lead on to something. So
I think with short stories, I don't know if you found, but the reason I think I find short stories more challenging than full-length novels is because you need to get the reader to connect with that character straight from the get-go. There's no build up. It's like it's there. You've got to have that instant spark.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. Yeah. Do you have a rule of thumb like mine is, if I know when my short story's finished, when I can go back over it one more time and there's nothing I have to change? That's my rule of thumb. Do you know when it's over? What's your, when do you know it's ready?
I'm pretty much the same, to be honest. I think it gets to a stage where I'm like, I physically cannot do this again.
Yes.
It's like, once it's sent off and one of my readers comes back to me, and then I can just like see their perspective on it, and then I might see things in a different way, but I sort of reread to the point where it's just like, don't make me do that again.
Yep. You know it. That's right. That's when you know it's. That's when you know you're done and dusted. Yeah. Have you ever had to walk away from a book for a while to get a break from it? Your books, you've been writing a novel, you're writing over and over and over again, and there's this, you don't have the motivation to continue on at that particular time. Do you walk away and come back 6 months later? Have you had to do that?
I have taken breaks. Not for like months at a time, but for the slasher, I keep coming back to that one because that's like, I just put everything into that.
Wow.
I sort of wrote it in the mindset that I was in, which wasn't positive. And then I sort of reread it again when I sort of felt better with like a new set of eyes. And it still surprised me what happened, even though I wrote it.
Yeah.
And it was, and I was like quite shocked about what I had wrote when I was in that mind frame. So, I do sort of step away, and it's like with the short stories, I did write them consecutively, but I always had, before I started editing the first one again, I made sure that I sort of finished the last one. So I had that big break between, and then sort of
Excellent.
redone it then.
Yeah, that's good to know, because sometimes we just get bogged down, don't we? And we forget to look after ourselves, you know,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's good to just get away from the computer. That's I give some writing tips on my channel. I don't know if you know that, but there are some writing tips on there. And one of the things I've said is get into a routine and make sure you have breaks. Because I think that's really important. Because I think a lot of us live on coffee and cigarettes. I vape. I don't. So I've quit smoking 10 years. Yay! Yeah, it is actually. That's one thing I say is you need to step away sometimes, from your project, especially if it's getting to the point where you're actually getting shitty about it. I know some people that don't. They just continue and continue and continue until it's finished. And I don't know how they, at the end of it, it's like, oh, God, and then they have to get onto another project, and it's like, oh, my God, do you ever take breaks, What do you do to have a break? Like my thing is Karen videos. I love watching Karen videos. I don't know why. Do not ask me why, but I love watching them. That's what I do for my happy place after horror. When I need to get horror out of my mind, like I know people that watch animal videos, pet videos, crazy videos, stuff like that. What do you do? If you don't mind answering.
When I feel like I need a break, I don't know if you can notice by my mug shelf behind me, I'm a big fan of Disney.
See that. Wicked.
So when I don't want to do horror, I sit and watch a Disney film or watch Disneyland videos or something like that. Just something completely different, just to get my mind off of it. But in a lot of my free time, I do read a lot of horror and thrillers. And, but yeah, my two biggest loves in life are Disney and horror. So,
wow! What a very, very strange comparison, isn't it? People who and I've also found this as well, that horror writers or horror creators, whether it's a film or books or whatever, we don't like to see animals hurt. Now, I cannot tolerate it. I just, it's a no-go for me. I can't watch a horror where an animal dies. Even though I know it's fake, I just can't watch it. What about you? Do you have pets? Do you feel the same way? I always ask this to horror writers, is this, because people are like, you're freaks, you're odd, you're weird, you're psychos, you're, crazy and twisted in the head, and you must like watching animals being murdered and children being hurt and stuff like that. And it's like, actually, no, we can't stand it. Yeah. How do you feel about it?
Well, I don't have any pets. I did have snakes before.
Oh, you lucky bugger.
Yeah, I had two. So, but one sadly died, and the other one's been rehomed. I don't really sort of. I'm not like dead against like the animal thing.
Okay.
But although I am more upset when an animal dies than a human, so I'm like,
yes.
I don't know if that says something about me or not. I don't know.
Nope, that's what I was getting at. My husband's like, how can you watch somebody? How can you watch somebody getting killed, but you can't watch a dog being run over or something on some film? And it's just like, oh, you don't understand.
Yeah. I remember watching Marley and Me.
Oh God!
I watched it on a college trip from Amsterdam to the UK, and I thought, this is the most stupid film to watch in a confined space. But yeah, so.
Oh yeah, it's just an interesting question I like to ask people. Yeah, because we're not freaks, we're not freaks at all. I don't know. I was always a little bit odd at school. I don't know. Were you? Were you the oddball at school? Yeah. Were you bullied and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
And nah, neither. But
I always always felt like a bit of an outsider.
Yeah.
Obviously, I did have issues with bullies and stuff, and growing up, and then I sort of discovered more about myself. But I've just learned to embrace it now. I think, well,
Hey.
I'm making steps to sort of forward my life. I wonder what those people are doing now, sort of thing,
Yeah, probably in jail. Yeah, and you're making a go of your life, and you're continuing on, regardless of what those assholes said to you and all that sort of stuff, and I embrace my freakiness, and I just hope you do too, and I hope that that people in the horror world, people who aren't involved in the horror world can see that. We're not psychopathic, bloody crazy people at all. There are some out there, but they're narcissistic. They don't write books. We write books about them. They can't write books. No. Yeah. So I'm quite into true crime. What about you? Do you get into true crime?
Not so much. So like the thrillers and crime ones I read are sort of all like fiction based, but I suppose that in crime fiction there is elements of reality in that.
Yes.
And horror and
reality, yeah, absolutely.
So I like to read a variety of different things. But I always come back to horror, so
so you're still reading, which is really good, because like I've said to people before, if you want to write, you need to read, because you need to read format, you need to read all those other, important elements that I think horror has a lot more components to it, say, than a thriller or a drama. There's a central conflict there, but the horror, we also have to have horror scenes, real visceral for our readers to enjoy the story, right? Because they know they're getting into horror. How do you feel about disclaimers? Because I know a lot of people are just like, don't put disclaimers and stuff like that. How do you feel about that?
What about trigger warnings and stuff like that?
Yeah, especially since you're in the middle of a slasher. How are you?
There's not going to be any disclaimers on it.
No.
I feel like if people want to read it, they get it, or they will read it. I feel like if you're sensitive to certain things, just
go
do
away.
Your research.
Yeah.
Do your research, or if it's not for you, don't come at me if it's not for you.
Yeah, because on the back of your book, right, there'll be horror, this is a horror, blah, blah, blah. So people will look at it and they'll go, or they might look at the cover and it's got an axe and whatever on it and some blood in a tree or something. That's an indication it's a horror, right? So if I'm not a horror fan, yeah, right. Oh, so I'm not going to pick your book up and I'm not going to read it because I don't like horror, right? So I'm not going to go onto Goodreads and go, this book sucked because it's a horror. Yeah. But there are actually people out there that do that. They go onto the horror groups and that, and they're like, oh, that's fake and this is fake and everything's fake, and it's just like, oh my goodness, why are you even in this group? And it's like, oh God, what are you? Yeah, I think there are people out there, right? Have you come across those people?
And I think if people are searching through like the subgenres, they sort of know what it's about before they click on it.
Yes.
If you're looking for like extreme horror, and if it's categorized as extreme horror, you don't need the disclaimer because you sort of already know what it's going to sort of be. get the general idea. Yeah, I did toy with the idea of disclaimers, but then I thought, well, no.
Yeah, I was actually, because I've got a real crazy horror story called One Dead Sister. It's a novel that I've been working on for years, but I just got stuck in the short story realm, and now I'm going to get this book done one day, definitely. And I've actually got a massive disclaimer in it. When I first started writing it, and that was 5 years ago I started writing it, and since then I've decided, no, I'm going to take the disclaimer out. I thought it's me as a responsible horror writer, right? This is what I thought, to warn people of the graphic nature of this story, because there's some things going on and some terrible stuff going on. It's a psychological sort of thing. But since then I've taken the disclaimer off, because people are like telling me, don't put disclaimers and all that. And actually I changed my mind on that, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely right. I don't think you should have disclaimers. But when it comes to films, there is a rating there, and there's also, it says the genre is horror. So obviously, why put the disclaimer there if you're going to watch it anyway because it's a horror? Yeah. So I don't know. They do it on YouTube too. You watch videos and they're like, restricted, mature, graphic content and that, and I can see why YouTube does that, but I just don't understand why writers do it. But
you can sort of convey what's included from like the back of the book, or like even through like trailers and stuff. You can set the vibe, people know what they're getting into without actually saying what's in it. Because I think sometimes like the disclaimers that I've read on like some books and trigger warnings, because obviously I've done a bit of research into this, it sort of like spoils the whole book, and it's like spoilers, and it's like, why are you telling me what's going to happen?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The only thing I've ever seen was American Psycho wrapped up in cellophane wrap, and it had an R18 rating on it, and you had to show your ID at the counter before you could buy it. Yeah. And I think that was a marketing ploy, because well, no, actually, the book's fucking brilliant, but the film's not. But that's a whole other thing. Adaptations from books to films sometimes don't transition over very well, and American Psycho is just another example of that. But anyway, I suppose we should wrap this up, just in case I get kicked off because of my recording thing. I just don't know what's happening with the world. Everything's going. Are we ever going to be able to do these again? It's just like, oh my goodness. It's a bit hard over here in New Zealand to find a really good platform that actually works. StreamYard, don't ever use that, guys. It's terrible. Oh my God. But anyway, where can we find you? I'm going to put your Facebook. Do you want me to put your Facebook in the descriptions? Yep. Yeah. Anything else?
I'm on Facebook. Obviously, you can find my work on Amazon. I'm also on like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, that sort of thing. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's excellent. And it's under M Purkiss, or Matthew Purkiss, or Matt Purkiss. Yes. Yeah. And
it's pretty uniform across all my social medias. It's either M Purkiss or M Purkiss author. So it's like really original.
We have to do that, right? It's a bit strange, isn't it? How we have to do all that sort of stuff, but never mind. Well, hey, I'm sorry we have to wrap this up. I just I'll get you on another time when I can find a blimmin' stream that will let me stream longer than 10, 15, 45 minutes. But it's been really interesting talking to you.
That's been lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, well, good luck for your future ventures, and we will keep on top of what you're up to, and I will be sharing everything, of course, to my group my Facebook group Horror Central. You'll be able to find all of Matthew's work on there as well. But until next time, hey, thank you again for coming on, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this year is going to happen for you. I think this year and next year is going to be your year, your years. Yes, look, tapping wood. I know, because I've already read some of your stuff, and I hope you're going to send me over your slasher, because I could be one of your ARC readers if you like, or beta reader, whatever. Yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. Excellent. All right. Well, we'll have a chat after this anyway. So, yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Yeah, so this is Matt Purkiss, and he is an author, and he's doing really wonderful stuff. So we'll keep you posted on everything that's going on. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and share the love and share the horror. Bye for now.